702.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
16 after 7, it is crunch time in Parliament, and for the last week, the ANC has been scrambling to get enough votes to pass the national budget today, with the DA playing hardball. The Blue Party has been refusing to support the Appropriations Bill or any budget tied to what they are calling ANC ministers facing misconduct allegations, saying corruption shouldn't be funded. And so we saw, in a dramatic twist, President Ramaphosa firing Minister Ngabane, and has that one DA support. Is it enough to save the budget and keep the lights on? If this appropriation bill flops, it wouldn't be just political embarrassment. There'd be real consequences in terms of money for schools, hospitals, or even salaries for public servants. We're joined now by the person who's keeping an eye on all of this, the Chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations. And it's a pleasure to call you Dr Musi Maimane. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me on your show, and I appreciate your congratulations. So
yes,
thank you
indeed.
very much.
Congratulations. All right, let's get straight into it. Belatedly, of course, we know the DA has softened its stance on this vote after the axing of Ngabane. Is that welcome news?
It is indeed, because I think what South Africa can ill afford is, for one, the public perception that a government cannot pass its own budget votes, and these ones are for all the national departments. Secondly, I think it's something for us to take a pause and say what South Africa desperately needs are crucial reforms, a crucial plan for growth, so that we stop having these debates, because in the end, they become political, less about the people. Because whatever my impression of it is, and I think I welcome the fact that Honorable Ngabane has been removed from her post, but there are many others. But that is a political issue that needs to be resolved within the GNU about planning. What South Africans want to see, in fact, is that let's table a budget before them that says, how do we keep them safe, keep the lights on, get their kids educated, and grow this economy? That must be the focus. And at this point in time, what I'm mostly sad about is that we've spent months debating politics, not debating people. So I'm hoping today passes so that we can really focus in the next number of months on a budget that we can table in February that then speaks to that question of what the people desperately need.
Well, how honourable Ngabane is remains the open question, isn't it? But let's not go there. Let's talk about the technicalities, Dr. Maimane. The appropriation bill requires a simple majority, so you need 201 votes in that 400-member National Assembly. I understand Parliament has a legal opinion that says it can only be passed if all the departmental votes have been agreed to. As things stand, that isn't the case just yet. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. The only point I'd want to clarify is the fact that 201 constitutes a quorum of Parliament. And then the vote must be a majority of members present in the House.
Of the quorum,
So
okay. Gotcha.
Of the quorum. So the numbers should be able to hold. But on the second point, of course, and this is the warning that I've been signaling to everybody, that budget votes, particularly in this instance, because the Money Bills and Related Matters Act hold the budget together. So if you reject education, you might as well reject all, because in simple terms, Bongani, without trying to belabor the point, if you say there must be 50 rands taken from education and given to health, and then you reject education, you must also say that you've rejected health, because now health also has to be adjusted, because the law works in that way. So that in this instance, if you reject one vote today, for example, I know that the DA had already come out and spoken about human settlements and picking the various ministers, etc., and there are other parties that are also objecting and voting against. If those do not carry a majority, the bill goes back, and to your introduction, the consequences are actually quite significant, because by the 1st of August, spending goes down to 10% of all national departments. So there is not a single national department whose salary bill is less than 10%. Most of them operate, police, for example, is 81% of cost of employees. Therefore, you must then tell South Africans, we would have to tell South Africans which police we pay, which police stations we keep open. And I think, to me, we never want to find ourselves in that situation. So I'm really appealing that the sense of national duty at a moment such as this one requires all of us in an imperfect budget. No one is saying this is a perfect budget or a fully funded budget.
Yeah.
In an imperfect context, we need to be able to get this budget through so that we do the hard yards that change it for next year.
Look, as I said in my introduction, the DA said they've softened their stance and that ultimately, they're going to act in the national interest, and these weren't empty political gestures. But I suppose one of the questions we could ask is that the kind of political brinkmanship that has brought us here suggests that, Parliament or this era of our politics is nothing is a fait accompli, as was the case when there were clear majorities. The other argument, of course, says, look, this is instability and political gridlock. That's what's become the mainstay of our politics. Your view?
My view is, at least before we even get into brinkmanship, etc., when you enter a plane as a government or whatever, you have two jobs. The first one is be clear who the pilot is, and the second one is be clear who the destination is. And that plane cannot be led by turbulence. And one of my fears now about the GNU is that every wind, every headfall kind of directs where the plane goes. What we need are clear priorities, clear goals, a vision for South Africa, because once you have that, it cascades down. You then create priorities, you then create spending as a result of that, and all people that are on that plane as the executive can say, this is our collective plan, therefore it must be funded. At this point in time, it genuinely often feels as though there's a continuation of more of the old, we're just adjusting for inflation here and there, and then what happens consequently is that then the politics become bigger. My urgency is that the GNU needs to produce a plan that is workable, fundable, so that we can then move ahead with everyone being committed to it. Tomorrow, it may not be the DA, it may be another political party, etc., etc. What you cannot do is put together a budget just on the interest and whims of whatever the political party wants, because then next year you'll have version 6 and 7 and we'll never get this through.
Look, I defy any political party who's going to go to some of its most crucial voters and say, we were the ones who were responsible for your salaries not being in your bank account. I suspect sense will prevail. The Chairperson of Parliament's Standing Committee on Appropriations, Dr Musi Maimane.
Current events, developing stories,
Tough questions.
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.